evening and welcome to Meticulous Moments. My name is Juanita Kapp. You can reach me at meticulousmacarons@gmail.com or find me on LinkedIn. Since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe, I've had the wonderful privilege to meet a wide array of fantastic individuals. These individuals have truly touched my life in so many positive ways. Amongst this group of people, there are authors, public speakers, life coaches, poets, leaders, and visionaries. They are the unsung heroes of our time. Therefore, I decided to start the Meticulous Moments movement out of a sense of my gratitude. It is my way of giving back to the community. Let us share and reshare their stories in an effort to build a better society. Good day, Meticulous Moments audience. Today we have the wonderful privilege of spending time with the amazing Austin Haines. A little bit more about Austin. Austin is the author of the Amazon best-selling book Flashpoint, Your Turnaround Story Starts Here. As your Flashpoint Master Facilitator, Austin guides you to experience your Flashpoint. Austin became an award-winning speaker, trainer, podcast host, and coach. He reaches his audiences wherever they are on their growth path and engages them on a life journey to propel them forward towards their own flashpoint. Austin's flashpoint occurred after he struggled for many years, living an unfulfilled life, a seemingly endless climb to reach nothing but dead ends and defeat. He carried the burdens of low self-esteem, feeling branded by the scars from his broken childhood. Later in life, a major tragedy, tumultuous relationships, financial ruin, and the threat of addiction created a hurricane of hopelessness. What a wonderful testimony this is of his life, dragging him into a dark space and time where he felt that his life was over. Through the support of his family, mentors, self-education, and his spiritual beliefs, things started to change. Austin landed a promising new job, but within a year he was told he would be fired if he did not turn things around. This was the genesis of Flashpoint. During this time, Austin created a big breakthrough that propelled him to become a top producer during a 19-year career with the same company. Most recently, Austin resigned from his career and reinvented his life to become a full-time life and business coach, author, and speaker. His Flashpoint set him on a mission to reach out and pave a path for you to reinvent your life and your journey through allowing you to emerge into a purpose-filled future a little easier and a lot faster. This was a very, very unique interview. Enjoy as you see through the eyes of Austin Haines. Welcome to this session, Austin Haines. Good day, Meticulous Moments audience. Today we have the privilege of spending time with the amazing Austin Haines. How are you this afternoon, Austin?
Thank you. I'm off to a good start. Just completed, actually I was up at 6, I started this new habit. I was up at 6:15. I went to the basketball courts and I was shooting basketball.
Wow. I love that. That's awesome. That's wonderful. I love that. I just saw it in my mind's eye now. That's amazing practice to have in the morning. We are so blessed to have you with us this afternoon. Will you please introduce yourself? I know you. We've, talked before. I've seen your show before, but would you please introduce yourself to the audience?
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm honored. I've been looking forward to this. I watch you. I love what you're doing. I love the way you show up, and I love the way you're helping people individually and with your platform. So it's an honor for me to come on here to share, and I always value these opportunities. If you Google me, I'll come up as a life and business coach. That's in the marketplace. I always look at it two ways. You got the marketplace. They understand certain language. They look at things. They look for things. So if you Google me, I come up as a life and business coach. As you get to know more about my journey, which is a long one, which hopefully we'll share a little bit today, because it wasn't always rosy and pretty. It's a long road. It was a hard road, but I'm here. And behind the curtain, I've written 2 co-authorship books. One of them went Amazon bestseller, which we were completely blessed by that. The story's in the book. Since completed a documentary with my brand. Flashpoint is the brand, and Flashpoint is the moment of your big breakthrough. It's a moment of clarity, and when it makes sense, it's this validation moment that is real, but it's kind of a paradox, which we could talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's one of my brands is Flashpoint. So we've completed a documentary on that. And I do these live experiential events. That's my heart, is to create an environment where people can win, transform, create distinctions, openings. And a lot of people think that, oh, I'm coming to hear Austin talk. But really what I've found, although we share content and the events are amazing, it's really about the environment that's created with everybody in attendance that creates this environment for people to win. So, and then I guess the TV show, there's 2 TV shows. There's Flashpoint, which I just referenced. That's also a TV show, which is actually tomorrow, Thursday, at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, every week, every Thursday. And then I launched a new show called Power of Pure Presence, which is all about like living in the moment. So life and business coach in the marketplace, although I've consistently create things because I want to create things that have an impact on people, that are even outside of the boxes and the labels.
Yes. I love that. And there's one thing I noticed about you since I met you, and that's that you are very passionate about what you do, and you always bring an excitement, and that kind of sets the stage. It brings the energy for people to feel comfortable, because immediately we feel that we are in safe hands. And that opens up their hearts to be receptive to what you bring. So I really enjoyed that. I also noticed that you're a very grounded individual. You're a solid personality. And I would love to hear, where did your wonderful leadership journey start? I mean, you're busy with all these projects, influencing people, creating a better community and society. Where did all of this start initially?
That's a really good question. One of my quotes is, I say, I took the long road. I didn't take the easy road.
Yeah.
But I'm still going to arrive on time. And so are you, the listener.
Amen.
And that's why I think my journey is valuable, because I'm not a genius. I'm not this prodigy that came to the world and has all these gifts. I'm somebody who struggled and went through a lot, made a lot of mistakes, not even knowing I was a leader. I never felt like a leader. But early on, I had this experience, and this came up on another podcast I was on. And I was at this retreat, and I had this great experience. There was I was, although I'm not a practicing Catholic today, I was raised Catholic, and I had a lot of great experiences with Catholicism, although many people, that's a whole nother conversation. But I was at a retreat, and I was leading up one of the groups, and it just happened. It just kind of happened organically. And then I had a friend say, wow, he's like, you could be a priest. And I was like, I was like, what? And I forgot about that. I was like, that's not, who I want to be. And while that's not what my destiny was, it validated that there's a place that this is my gift.
Yes.
To be in front of people and to be sharing and giving them space to grow. And that's where you reference the grounded part. Oftentimes, it's funny because I have this paradox where some people think I'm laid back, and they don't, and then all of a sudden, they're like, whoa, because, it's just kind of the way who I am. At one hand, I'm laid back because I want people to express themselves. I want people to grow. And I found that it's in the vacuum, like when we're in the space, we pour content
Yes.
into the space, but it's when I step back and allow the person, that's when it's almost like the flower blooms.
Beautiful. Beautiful. And just hearing that is an encouragement in itself, and I described you as being grounded, being a solid person, but I also described you as being passionate and full of excitement. So I think there's a wonderful balance there.
Yes.
And you are living your calling.
Yes,
It's amazing
I am now.
to see that. Yeah.
I am now. Yes, yes. After 19 years in corporate America with the same company, I resigned. My last day was July 3rd, 2019. I left that company and I went full time into this space to do this. And that's why I'm here today. That's why every time I get on a show or an interview, I connect to the long road, everything. And it culminates right now into this present moment, because one decision differently, had I not left the job, I wouldn't be here. So every decision, and when we answer a decision that's coming from a deeper place,
yes,
it may create chaos in the short term, but in the long term, we allow, I'll say, the divine God to flow through us.
Amen.
And then we transcend any expectations that we may have. Like it's even better,
Yeah. I think that chaos is often generated, the chaos that you described, from our uncertainty, because no one likes the feeling to not be certain of what to expect tomorrow. It's a human defect. We are all like that. And I'm thinking of two things as you were speaking. I'm thinking of two slogans. The one is, the choices we make is the life that we live. Because if you hadn't made that choice in 2019, I wouldn't have met you. You wouldn't have been busy with your shows. And the second thing I'm thinking of is that difficult roads lead to beautiful destinations.
Yes, and it translates to the listener, because there's a listener that's going to be here. I'm not sure. Is this streaming live right now?
No, it's pre-recorded.
Okay, so it's recorded, but someone's going to listen to this.
Yeah.
And you see how that translates to that listener, because something, they found this audio for some reason.
Yeah.
And to just listen to it and go, oh, that's entertainment. No, there's a reason you found this today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a reason you found Juanita. There's a reason you found this recording. And it's about just allow that to speak to you, and it'll speak to your journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you 100%. Now, I've been to one of your ACT meetings, and that is spelled ACCT. And would you please just share with the audience what you do in these ACT meetings and gatherings? Because I found it very refreshing.
Yes, the ACT is it's based on accountability. Accountability. ACT is ACCT. It stands for accountability, community, coaching, transformation.
Beautiful.
And that's really what it is. And in that order, actually, because we foster an environment that is very unique. It's intimate, and there's accountability in it. But it's really self-accountability. It's not like, it's not like your job where your boss is like, hey, did you get that? It's not like that. It's more of touch points, because we deal with a lot of solopreneurs, new entrepreneurs, people that have a passion project. And a lot of times they're on their own and they don't have a checkpoint to check in on their progress. So what we do is we provide them an opportunity to share what's going on in their world. We give them an opportunity to chart a course. They can type in what's going on, and then we can follow up with them to make sure that they're staying true to their commitment. Because what I found, it's not that people don't know what to do and they don't need somebody to kind of tell them what to do. It's more that if you're a side hustler, you have lots of things going on, and then you have this thing that's like your passion, and your bandwidth gets stretched, your time gets stressed. So it's not that you don't know what to do, but what we do is we're like a little subtle reminder. Hey, don't forget, you want to get that thing done. and then it just reconnects them to what's most important. And then they take action. So it's not like we have to, it's not that kind of accountability. It's more of a connection to what their most important thing is.
Yeah. And that's a much needed space that you are filling right there, because, as you are describing it, you articulated that so well. I was thinking back to 2013 when I started Meticulous initially. I was so busy in the ministry, always doing other things, until 2020, where everything came to a halt. The church was closed, everything stopped, and then only did I start focusing on Meticulous, started to formulate Meticulous Moments. So if only I'd had someone during that time just to check in with me and say, well, did you do something this week? Are you busy with that? Can I assist you? How can we elevate each other? So I love the concept of the ACT meetings, because it's something that we all need. We need someone to check in, to show they care, elevate each other, render expertise both ways. And I just love those meetings. They are phenomenal.
Yeah, I'm so glad. We were honored to have you a part of it, and we're going to scale it. Actually, we're in the process. We got a plan in place because more people need it. There's lots of side hustlers out there who are, they don't know where to go. They're they might be investing in these programs that end up leaving them with like a lot of information, but not getting progress. Yeah. So this is less about information and more about connection and progress. So we can, instead of a 10-year journey or a 6-year journey, maybe we cut it down to a year or two, where I really see that, where people are going to be able to accelerate faster, not because of more information, because of staying connected and into a loving accountability community.
Beautiful. That connectedness, it is so, so necessary. I was in that ACT meeting. I canceled other meetings because when you spoke about the ACT meeting, I canceled other meetings and I made sure I was there. And I was so impressed to the audience. This is what my experience was, that I reached out to Austin and said, well, on that date, every week at that time, I have a set appointment, but do you have other times that I can get involved? Because it was just so amazing. So, Austin, we should make it available, all your contact details for people to follow you, network with you, so that they can also experience what really made such a big impact in my life. And during that session, you read a poem about community. Mm-hmm. And I really experienced that the audience, they need to hear this. Mm-hmm. So would you please read that wonderful poem that you wrote, and we will also make the YouTube link available at the end of the session.
Yes, because the YouTube video is going to probably have more impact, but I'll read it right now so people can hear it. It's called Sinews of Community is the name of the poem. Sinews of Community. That word is SINEWS. Sinews of Community. The sinews of community cannot be fully measured. But when life gets intense, it can keep me tethered to the tenets I knew to be true long before the storm came through. I get stronger to face any provocation. I overcome my greatest challenges, even stagnation. I can rise again, even if I have been oppressed for years. Community gives me wings to fly over my fears. Community allows me space to release tears that heal. I am reconnected and empowered to truly feel. I release emotions that seem stuck for an era. Emotions that used to make me shake in terror. No longer will I retreat into a hopeless isolation, for that urge is transmuted into my spark of liberation. I do not feel it immediately, but one bold step and my eye becomes our, we. Through my community, I am empowered and set free, for I need my community, and my community needs me.
Silence. Beautiful. There's nothing I can add to that. It speaks for itself. Thank you very much for sharing that. Powerful, powerful, powerful.
Yeah. Yeah, it's powerful.
Austin, when did Flashpoint start, and what is the backstory of this wonderful initiative?
Flashpoint is a life journey, but it culminated for me because I had battled self-worth my large part of my journey. From a youth, I came from a broken home, and we were on subsidy from the government after my parents got divorced, and there was times we didn't have heat in the home. There was times we didn't have food, but most of the time we were covered. Most of the time I had everything I needed, but there was this psychology in my mind that was unfolding of lack of worth because of how I came into the world, and being raised by parents who just didn't understand. Like, my dad was a Vietnam vet. He had battled PTSD, alcoholism, incredible man, just had some major challenges that didn't make him, the normal father, and parents got divorced. My mom was clinically depressed, and that was my start. And so going through life, things got better. We had our ups and downs, but I had this malaise. I wrote this other poem called "What is this malaise?" And this malaise was like this dis-ease, this like low-level dis-ease that I'm not good enough. And my ego would come in and give me false hope, but I would ultimately sabotage things. But I was working on myself, and I would make progress. And then, fortunately, I got this job with this company where I barely got hired, and within the first year, they were going to fire me. And this is in the documentary, but I had this moment where I had to face myself. They said, if you don't turn things around, we're going to fire you. And this is when I just had this moment of like fully embracing that. And this is going to be in my book, which is going to be out like in the next 30 days, Flashpoint, where I talk about embracing. Nothing happens unless we embrace what's happening in the present moment. And so during this I did this not knowing it, but I embraced it. And then after this like moment where I'm embracing, because this letter that I got in the, saying you're going to get fired, it wasn't the letter, it was my worth, because I had connected it to who I am. See, you're a failure. Here it comes again. But through that embracing, I call it like a flicker flash. It's like a flicker flash. And then a flashpoint moment happened in me. I knew that in order to turn things, there had to be a decision. And I say every cell in your body responds. That change is happening. And so after I had that moment, within like a year or two, I became one of the top reps in the company. I had 1 year where I was the top rep in my category. And went on to have a 19-year success run with that company. And during that time, it didn't completely go away. I still had self-worth issues, but I had broken through and I had evolved, and that evolution continued. And then I started to get into this space, and then everything started to kind of make sense. I started to get to perspective, and I understood that my top talents were teacher, advisor. And so as that started to change and morph into what I'm doing today, this flashpoint continued. But the external flashpoint for me was when I had this success. I had this high level of success in my company. And that's when, that was like the first version of Flashpoint. And now I'm in the second version where, everything is culminating in my entrepreneurial journey. as a life coach, speaker, author in this new space. I'm just over 3 years into my journey here, and all that's
Yeah.
repeating, but a lot more conscious, intentional, deeply rooted, far reaching, and transformational for everybody that comes into our space, not just me, but the space that we're creating.
Beautiful testimony, amazing. I can see that every event that you went through, all the stress that you must have had as a child, dealing with your father that had PTSD, your mom that was depressed, it has built up a resilience in you. And when I look at your life, I see that you are resilient, and I see that you are healed from your past trauma, and that you have become an agent of healing. And you have a heart for people, and you want to bring this to other people. And that's really the drive, what I see from my perspective of everything that you do. And I think that's commendable, because a lot of people get healed and that's where they stay. They keep it to themselves, they go on with their lives, but you really transformed your life, you healed, and you want to bring that healing to other people. And that says something about your heart. You have a heart-centered leadership approach.
Yeah, and I think it's really about answering the call. It's
Yeah.
like leaving my corporate job, high paying corporate job. I created a lot of chaos.
Mm.
So without the call and a deep purpose, nobody would want this. You see what I mean? Because you bring in you bring in lots of adversity and chaos, but what I teach people is that's required. And the one thing I didn't share is, and reason why there's a heart for this for me. I had a point in my life where I said my life was over. Early on, I had this moment where something happened. I was responsible for it. And I said, my life is over. And it wasn't so much that I said it, it's that I believed it.
Yeah.
And that's where my dad stepped in. And that's why, I told you about my parents.
Yeah.
But I want to say, I love my parents. They love, my dad has passed because my dad lived a hard life. But my dad loved me. And
Of course.
it was in that tough moment that I needed somebody like my dad to say, your life is not over. Because my dad had been in a war.
Yeah.
So we don't get the parents we want, we get the parents we need. And it's important for people to hear that, because especially today, there's a lot of complaints about parents. And our parents are human. And they're there, they're your parents for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I can say that because, like I said, my dad, I'll tell you, he battled alcoholism. He had a stroke. He was supposed to die. My mom was clinically depressed.
Yeah.
So I can look back and I love them, and they were my parents for a reason.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely, absolutely true. We all are on a journey. We never arrive to a place where we say, now we've arrived, we are perfect. There is no such thing as perfection. There's no such thing as a perfect parent. And I agree with you. We are given the parents that we need. I think that is a wonderful way of explaining it. And if we look back at our lives, we go through the events that we go through the traumas and the trials and the tribulations, because they shape us into the people that we are supposed to become. Nothing in life is always just perfect or wonderful. That's not life. We live in a broken world. People are broken, and we are here to be the agents of light. And that brings me to something that I saw on one of your shows. You used an hourglass. Explain something to your audience. Would you please, just explain that to us? Wow.
A lot of the things that I do, they're like divine downloads, that come through. A lot of times when I'm running, I've done ultra marathons, and I can't remember where this came from, but this was, I can't remember exactly when, maybe a year and a half ago, I had this divine download of power of pure presence.
Yeah.
About living in the moment. And that's a whole nother, we could spend a whole hours on that, talking about that. But the hourglass was a symbol of living in the moment. And I brought this into my Flashpoint show. And the hourglass is a beautiful symbol of the moment is consistently unfolding right now. And a lot of times what we do is we, like, if you're listening to this, I'm holding up an hourglass right now. I'm watching the sand fall to the bottom. And if I look at the bottom, that's where the past is. It's already happened.
Yeah.
And a lot of times we could be looking at a past situation, a mistake that we made, someone wronged us. And we keep going back to it, thinking, trying to change it somehow, but it's done. And the present moment is like waiting for us to step into it. Or if you look at the top of the hourglass, that's the future. It's what hasn't happened yet. And what we do is, it's one thing to have a vision. Like, we want to create a vision.
Yes.
But a lot of times what I used to do, I had this low level another dis-ease I had was because I was flawed. My life was flawed. I had to get to a future moment. Not a vision like, oh, I had this beautiful vision. It was more like, I need to get to this grain of sand that is way up at the top of the glass.
Yeah.
And I'm devaluing everything else. So this moment's not valuable. This moment, I need to get to that other future moment. That's a dis-ease. And I believe it's the dis-ease of the world, is that we're fixated on a future moment that's a utopia moment.
Yeah.
And we devalue this moment. And there is no get there. There's only now. And so if you look at the hourglass, it's constantly flowing, and it's our call is to dial in to that moment as it unfolds and live life there.
Beautiful. I love that. I love that. Yeah, we should be present in the moment, because if we keep on, thinking of the utopia you spoke of in the future, we miss the lessons that we are supposed to learn now to prepare us to be able to handle the utopia that's on the way. I love that. Thank you so much for bringing that to the audience. In that same show, you had a light bulb with a special history. Would you like to share that information with the audience?
This is a light bulb here. I'm holding it up. This is, I live in New Jersey, and I'm about an hour and a half to 2 hours south of where the Thomas Edison light bulb was perfected. So we use the light bulb as a metaphor because Thomas Edison, the great inventor, was once asked, he was cited as having failed or making 10,000 attempts.
Yeah.
And by the way, I want to point out that he had a team. It wasn't just him.
Yeah.
He had a team of inventors that reported to him, and they were cited as having made 10,000 attempts. And they said, how do you feel having failed 10,000 times? And he said, I did not fail 10,000 times. I created 10,000 ways in which the light bulb could not be created. So 10,000 iterations, plus or minus. And then they perfected this light bulb here, the incandescent light bulb, that was in use for about 100 years. So one breakthrough, one flashpoint moment, and it served humankind for 100 years.
Amazing.
And that's the power of, staying true to our journey.
Yeah, the power of not giving up.
And I will say, redefining what failure is. Failure is not it's not failure or success. Yeah. It's failure and success. It's connected to it. And this is a lot of times because of the way a lot of people want to the way society can portray it, you're a failure or a success. No, every success is somebody who embraced failure and turned it into success. Yeah. It's a different conversation.
Yeah, it's not either or. It is a combination of, and I always tell leaders, when we do leadership development and training, I always say, you are going to have disappointments because you are going to fail at some things. You're not always skilled at everything you try the first time, but don't internalize that failure and make it your own. You are not the failure. You just have to recalibrate what you've been doing in order to make it a success.
Yes. And that's a really good point, because the earlier version of me, failure validated my lack of worth. And that's why I struggled for so long.
Yeah. So you felt you were a failure. We all went through that. I mean, you shouldn't, it's a human thing. It's a misconception, like you mentioned, in society that if we don't succeed, then automatically we have failed. That's not true. I agree with you. It's a combination. And really, if you become a strong leader with strong morals and values and a sound, solid leadership foundation, you have to fail a few times to get to that place of leadership maturity.
Yeah. And I think now that we're talking about leadership, I think it's important to note that if you think about, this is a great visual, right? You think about the leader who steps up onto the pedestal and leading, right? But it's stepping down from the pedestal is leadership.
Yes. Yeah.
Like the pedestal is used to convey a message, not to celebrate you.
Yes.
So true leadership is you can relay a message and then you step down from the pedestal and get busy. You see what I mean? And that's where you get into like servant leadership.
Yeah. Stepping down from that pedestal. I saw that in my mind's eye. That is a wonderful way of explaining it, making it practical for people and enhancing their leadership skills through exactly what you just mentioned, making them think about how they ought to conduct themselves as leaders. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, you're welcome.
You and I both love nature. Tell us more about what role nature plays in your daily life.
Nature is something that has always been with me, and it's just taken on more meaning over the years. And it's important to note that Power of Pure Presence, my show, it's every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, is broadcasted from nature.
Wonderful.
And it's been a powerful tool. There's a research study that said that people who were watching Planet Earth according to this, they've like the way they did the study, their gratitude increased by like 31%. So that's a big number. Just by watching nature on a screen.
Yeah. Wow. What a powerful thing.
Yeah, it's powerful. So that's why the reason why I am connected to nature is because it's a great catalyst for bringing people into the present moment. And for me, I connect to my Creator. So for me, it has so much significance for me from every facet. Mind, body, spirit. It's a great catalyst for me. So I've been to the Grand Canyon. I've been to Paladuro Canyon in Texas. I'm in North America here, but I've also walked to my local nature trail, which is like 10 minutes from here. And I enjoy all of it. I have a tree right outside my balcony. I just sit on my balcony and I just focus on the tree for a moment. I hear nature and I connect with nature. You said to me, "It sounds like you're out in nature." I was like, "I'm on my balcony." Remember you left me a message?
I remember.
Because I was on the balcony, I'm looking at the tree.
Somewhere in the woods.
Right, but it's a great message because if we're not a nature person, you can still connect to nature. That's the message, and let it speak to you.
Yeah, you have a tree that you love. I have a rock. So I go hiking every single weekend, and I have a rock on the top of the hiking trail. I'll send you a photo where I sit and journal, and I do my power pose and my affirmations, everything, meditations, and I even take a nap on that rock, sometimes for 2 hours.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I have pictures of me on a rock, sleeping on a rock.
Wow,
Yeah.
amazing. We should share pictures.
Yes. Yes. That's
I
beautiful.
always tell people it's what keeps me sane because when I go there, it's just me and nature, peace and quiet.
Yeah. And if you think about a rock, the metaphor of a rock is grounded, right?
Yeah,
It's
love that.
got weight.
Yeah, amazing, amazing. You have a very open personality. It's easy to talk with you. You are an inviting person. What is your advice to leaders with regards to their conduct when they work with their teams, their friends, and their families?
It's took me a lot of years, but it's being in finding the balance between being intentional and flexible.
Mm.
And we could create an acronym right now. If
Oh,
intentional and what was the? I just lost it.
functional.
Flexible.
Oh, flexible.
Yeah. So
If
intentional
intentional and flexible. I love
and
that.
flexible. So what does that mean? That means have your directives,
Yeah.
have your outcomes, and be flexible.
Mm.
Leaders have a tendency, we fall into two buckets. We're
Mm.
typically controlling and overly aggressive on
Mm.
getting to that outcome. And that, I'm sure there's certain places where, dependent on the line of business, but what we're finding is that long-term sustainable results come from a strong culture. And
Mm.
control is only going to get you so far. Carrot
Yeah.
and stick is only going to get you so far.
Yeah.
And the world is changing. And if you want to be a part of the evolution of leadership and where people are going to get high results, it's
Mm.
going to come from stepping down from the pedestal, listening to people, connecting to people so
Yeah.
that they feel heard, understood, respected, and accepted.
Mm.
And then you can that's fertile ground for your
Yes.
intentions. You see,
Yes.
like, so if I'm working with you and you feel, and we talk and you feel heard, understood, respected, and accepted, now
Yes.
I have the fertile ground for whatever objectives or intentions we're trying to hit. But
Mm.
if I disregard you and I say, we got to hit these objectives now, we may hit the objectives, but you may lose that culture. And so we
Mm.
have to
Mm.
find this, and this is where it comes back to the hourglass of being willing to dial into what's happening right now with a person, with our
Mm.
results, and then being,
Yeah.
intentional and flexible so we can grow and hit our targets.
Wonderful, wonderful. You come from the corporate world. We work with management of self, management of others, management of the corporation, management of stakeholders. So in the corporate world, I've noticed, but that was just my experience, that they focus on output. It's all about the output. It's all about the output, and not all companies, some companies. And to translate what you've just said, is to say that focus on the employees, make them feel validated and appreciated. Really mean when be authentic when you engage with them. Really care about them, and then the output will naturally increase. And there will be, like you mentioned, culture. There will be a good, can I say, vibe amongst the employees, and everybody will be happy to come to work. And the goals will be met. So yeah, there's different approaches. I'm also a people-centered person because I believe that we focus on the people to get the results. We don't focus on the results. We first focus on the people and their needs, because they are who are really important. And you are important to us, Austin, and we want to know what makes you happy.
Well, I liken to live. Let's see. Oh, here it is, right here. You know,
Live life fully now.
Pure. Oh, the power of pure presence.
Yeah,
Oh,
this is
yes.
our tumbler here. I'm holding up a tumbler. It's got power, pure presence,
Awesome.
live life fully now. It's
Lovely.
it's about living life fully now. Does that mean you're always happy? No. But if you live life fully now, it means you're embracing life,
Mm,
and yes, you set intention about like what makes me happy. I mean, I could be happy. Got up this morning and went to play basketball. I had my morning video. Like this is now.
lovely.
So, and I think this is, I was going to say this earlier, but back to, people, society is wired to get somewhere. And
Mm,
power of pure presence is all about expanding now. So
mm,
this is really simple and very profound. If
mm, mm.
I'm wired to think I'll get there and feel some kind of emotion or happiness, I'm half delusional because it's about right now. It's about whatever happens now is an expansion. It expands. So if whatever I can cultivate right now that's in alignment with me, that has the ability to expand. And
Yes.
if I'm not in alignment, I'm feeling discontent. My brain's
Mm,
going to be jumping around. I'm going to be trying to find the next trick or tip to get to some destination
yeah.
instead of cultivating now. So when you ask
Mm,
me what makes me happy, I want to be in alignment with who I am, stay true to myself, be effective, and expand this moment. You see what I mean?
yeah.
And then I can experience happiness, joy. I might experience some doubt here and there, but as
Mm,
long as I'm embracing it,
yeah.
I'm fully embracing life. I'm
Yeah.
letting in the emotions, and then I'll go back to if. Then I'm intentional and I'm flexible. I want to
Flexible.
set intentions to experience happiness. But when
Yeah.
sadness comes in, I have the flexibility to go, well, this is life. I can embrace this too. But then I can
Mm,
become intentional again so that I can experience happiness more often.
yes. Fantastic, fantastic. All about your mindset. I feel the power of pure presence for me is always in my thoughts. Even if I face tremendously upsetting circumstances, I've just taught myself that, it's fine. I deal with it. I face it. I don't run away from it. I don't turn my back to it. I don't live in a place where ignorance is pure bliss. I face it. I acknowledge how it makes me feel. And then I just decide that, I can navigate my way through it. And that to me that's how I've made it up to this point in my life. So yes, we have to live in the now. We have to face because often I feel people look to the future, like you said, and they ignore what's going on in their lives, but that's really not helping them to progress. It's helping them to stagnate. So being in the power of pure presence, being present and dealing with what you need to deal with in your very moment is empowering to me. I like to face reality and truth. So thank you very much for that answer. And it brings me to the next question,
Well, I just
which
want to
leads
say that's why you're
yeah,
doing this work. That's why you're doing this work. I just want to point that out. What you just
thank
shared is your ability to embrace is why you're doing this. So I congratulate you for that.
I appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Austin. Thank you. Which leadership style do you employ when you work with others?
Style, I would say I like to create spaciousness for people so
Yeah.
that
Wow.
if I can embrace them,
Yeah.
I give them the flexibility to discover their way inside of the context of what the bigger objective is. So if I can create that space for them
Wow.
and we can be intentional about here's what we want to create, the gifts that come out of them
Yeah.
are something that I could never force.
Mm.
It's a natural occurrence. And then it's a balance, it's a balance because it's being assertive when you need to be assertive, and be nurturing. I have a tendency to be a little more nurturing. It's part of my nature
Yes.
than assertive. But even in that space, people still grow, and then sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to discover, okay, what do we need to do here to move forward and we got objectives here too. We're running a business, right? We're running a company, we're running a business or group, whatever we're engaged in at that time. But it's again, what is most required, and being, again, dialing into the moment of what's most required now. And I think that's the power, again, power of pure presence kind of comes in there as well.
Yes. Wonderful, wonderful. You meet people where they are at in their life, in their leadership journey, and you guide them and you facilitate their growth and development. I love that. And I know you are extremely busy. I know you are busy with all these projects. And my question to you would be, how often do you reward yourself for your personal achievements? Do you make me time? And how do you do that?
Yeah, I'll go, typically I'll go out in nature. I'll ride my bike. I run. I'll go on a little, adventure.
I love that.
I'll spend time with friends. I have some close friends. We do these trips together, and I just find joy in that. I find joy, yes, I like the big things too, but I've made it easy to find joy. I'll go out on the hiking trail. Like yesterday, it rained, but like some days I'll step away and I'm just going to go disappear in nature. And it's like magic,
It is.
They say, Austin, what's your secret? I'm like, I show these videos of just me out in nature, and they're so subtle. Like if you blink, you miss it. But then you're like, wait, it just draws you in. It's like, oh yeah, this is, I say in the simple, you find the profound.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. It is a magical experience just to, focus on the simple things in life, just to get back to the basics. I've been at, and I'm sure you as well, major events. I rub shoulders with wonderful people. I love all people. I treat all people with dignity. And I always tell people, it doesn't matter how big and extravagant the event is, we always come back to the basics. Less is always more. And like you said, there are profound things to be found in the simple things in life. Profound breakthroughs and knowledge and experience.
And I think it's about staying true to yourself to me is the greatest call for people. Not from ego, from heart. Stay true to that call, whatever it is for you, and discover it. And we help folks do that.
Yeah. Now we've mentioned the lovely tree by your porch, where I thought you were in the woods actually, because I heard nature and everything. What do you do on your porch? Do you drink coffee there in the morning? Do you read? What is your favorite thing to do there?
It's a great question, Juanita. It's a great question because last night I had the beautiful experience. We had a storm that came through, and I'm fortunate because I have two balconies here. I have a covered balcony, and I was able to sit out there during the storm and just watch the storm come through, and wind blowing through the trees, rain the mist, and just sit out there.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I'm just like,
this is life.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful, and I'm glad I would consider that's my way that I rewarded myself yesterday. The fine stillness.
Magnificent. Lovely. I wish I was there. Next time you should tell me, and you should call me in and I can watch it with you.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes I'll go live or do a video, but last night I said no. Just,
It's just you and nature.
yeah, just put the phone down. Just
Amazing.
be here right now.
Present. Yeah. Wonderful. Austin, what's next for you?
What's next? I have my Flashpoint, Manifesting the Moment of Your Big Breakthrough. That book is coming out in
Yeah.
conjunction with the live event we're doing, which is, it's an in-person and a virtual event. For most people, it's going to be October 8th and 9th. We have VIP on October 7th. We run the Rocky steps from the movie Rocky for the VIPs. And then from there, I have a couple other projects, but I'm going to start on the book, Power of Pure Presence. 365 days and ways to stay inspired. I have the book cover done. We have it done already, but it's going to be, at least right now, the concept is broken down into days so people can read it each day. 365 days and ways. And it's all about cultivating presence, living in the moment. And it's so awesome. It's so profound, and it's such a blessing. And I know it's going to bless people in ways they can't even comprehend once we get that book done. And then we're doing a retreat in February in Costa Rica.
Oh.
It's around my birthday. That's February 16th to the 22nd. That's going to be amazing. Yeah, that's the Costa Rica. We're going to be planning a Power of Pure Presence international conference kind of a thing.
Wonderful.
That's on the radar. So lots of exciting things. And then we have the TV show, Flashpoint TV. We'll have to have you on there sometime.
Absolutely fantastic. We are looking forward to all of it. And that brings me to our last question. And this has just flown by. I can't believe we are at the last question already. Do you have any words of wisdom for the audience?
I would, to me, the most transformational thing that I'm most passionate about is power of pure presence. Give yourself the permission and the freedom to live life now. I'm reading a book called, it's kind of morbid, but it's called The 5 Regrets of the Dying. It was written by a woman from Australia named Bronnie, Bronnie. What's her last name? I can't think of it right now. But she ended up, not by choice, she ended up being this person who had this gift to spend time with people as kind of like a caretaker, but it was more about psychological, emotional than it was the physical. And she ended up spending time with these people in their last days. And this one woman, it was such a heart-wrenching story, but she said she wished she would have given herself the permission to be happier. And I think this is the thing that we walk away with, is that your happiness, your life is not in the future. It's not a someday proposition. We learn and teach ourselves to practice the power of pure presence today, in the small seeds of allowing joy in, the small seeds of appreciation, the small things. We always come back to the small things in life, the good conversation with a family member or a friend, the smile from a stranger, appreciating a flower, allowing being dialed into spring as the seasons change. And just give yourself the permission to feel good now, because whatever you do right now is an expansion of, it's not a get to somewhere else to feel good.
Thank you for your phenomenal joy that you bring, for your advice, your courage, your wisdom that you've shared in this wonderful interview. We are so appreciative of your time. Thank you for joining us. It was a wonderful session. I really appreciate it.
I really thoroughly enjoyed this time with you. I thank you for providing this space and your platform. And I thank the listener for being with us today.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And to the Meticulous Moments audience, thank you so much for joining us. We are going to make Austin's contact details available after the session. Please reach out to him, network with him as we cheer him on this beautiful life journey as he transforms and invests in community. And with that, we'll see you in the next session. Goodbye.